Okay, Northern Forest Atlas friends, here we are at the hangar of Ed McNeil in Lake Placid with the AirCam. Ed, as you know, is one of the principals behind the Northern Forest Atlas, and this is his plane, which has captured a ton of content for the Atlas. And so we were going to fly today, but it was a little too windy, so we decided to just take a look at the plane itself and have Ed tell us a little bit about how this plane came to be.
Well, we can blame it on Charlie Canham, who at the Carey Institute wanted to take samples in a large number of Adirondack lakes, and there wasn't really an airplane that was capable of doing more than about the 80 largest lakes in the Adirondack, so we had to come up with a different solution. And I'd been flying an airplane like this on wheels in Florida and decided that because it's twin engine and very safe, and that we could probably get ourselves out of bad situations on a single engine if we had to. It would be the perfect airplane to put on floats. So I designed all of this attach hardware that you see here that connects the airplane to the float. Bought a kit. These are Montana 2200 floats that are offered in a kit for a manufacturer in Libby, Montana. And then I put together the first set of floats and attached it to an airplane, and that's what got us started taking water samples.
So Ed, what do you use? What devices does this plane hold to capture all of the things that you're looking to do in terms of gathering content for the Northern Forest Atlas?
Well, all 30 of the videos that are currently up on the website have been filmed with either this camera or a predecessor to this camera. And this is the Panasonic GH4. And a lot of indie filmmakers are using this camera to make films. Really the kind of films that you see in movie theaters. And it's surprising that a camera this small can have the kind of resolution that the sensor and lens have, but it's incredibly powerful. And we hooked that with an HDMI cable to what's called an Atomos monitor, and this particular monitor has the ability to have a 480 gigabyte hard drive, SSD hard drive attached to it. And the combination lets us film for pretty much all day, as long as the battery and the camera hold out, and if necessary I can stop on a lake and change the battery in the camera, and I carry extra batteries for that. And this is also battery powered here, and those tend to last all day. But on the monitor I can see in 1080p everything that the camera is seeing, and it's very easy to operate the camera from this. They're paired quite well through the HDMI cable, so I can start and stop the camera. I can even change some settings on the camera if necessary in flight. But the resolution is just surprising. But the hard part about this was getting the vibration out, and what you see here is there's two different plates. The camera's mounted on a top plate, and behind this tape here are three different densities of foam. Each layer of that foam takes out another range of frequencies. Also on this mount is a unique device operated by a flap motor off of a different airplane. And I roll this up in flight, or actually before flight, until we're out to the place where we're going to film, and then lower it electrically from the cockpit because the lens cover is already off, and that way we don't get black flies and things on the lens. We can keep it clean.
Ed, you've got to get off the ground somehow and then hold yourself in the air. This plane itself is incredibly unique in its engines, which, as you can see, are behind the wing here. But tell me a little bit about these engines and what makes them special for this type of aircraft that you've constructed.
Well, we're in the Adirondacks and we're up at about 2,000 feet, and these are turbocharged engines, so they'll maintain their horsepower up to about 17,000 feet. But what's really unique about them is there's a prop governor inside this spinner, and these are variable pitch props. And what that does is lets us use a much finer pitch for takeoff, which translates into letting us use all of the horsepower from the engine and converting that to thrust on takeoff. And this airplane will get off the water in about 2.5 seconds. And that let us get into lakes that are as small as 250 feet. And as far as filming for the Atlas project is concerned, there's just enormous safety in having two engines with that kind of power because I can fly home on one engine.
At any moment, Ed, you're ready to go into the field and capture content, and a big part of that not just is the plane, but also some of the other items that you've got here in the back of your vehicle.
So this is an Inspire 2 drone. It's actually quite large, and this is a backpack that I use to carry into remote places that we're going to film. And we launch it with a camera attached. This is a camera that films in either 5K or 6K. We're currently filming in both 4K and 5K resolutions for the Atlas website. And this gives us the ability to fly on days when it's too windy to fly on the airplane, and also to get things that are back in the woods that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get with the airplane.
Okay, Ed, we're here in your edit studio, and after visiting the hangar where your plane is. So after you've captured the content with the AirCam, obviously you go through a process in order to build it into the content that you're going to use for the Atlas. Just tell me a little bit about that process.
Well, we come off of the airplane with a 480 gigabyte hard drive, an SSD drive that you saw on the monitor on the airplane, and I literally just plug that into a USB terminal on the back of the computer and download it to a hard drive, copy it for security, and then once it's there I import it into Final Cut Pro, and depending on what landscape type we're trying to show, we'll then integrate that footage directly into a timeline for that community type, and produce a video which will end up on the Northern Forest Atlas website.
Ed, when you head into the field, it seems like you kind of have to have a roadmap for what you're trying to capture. And then how do you determine where you go to capture that content, and then once you get it, ultimately decide if it's what you were looking for?
Well, the simple answer is that we have a binder full of landscape types that we want to film over the years, and we're slowly working our way through all of those. But when you take a specific landscape type, here we're on Lake Champlain, and we're looking at the Split Rock formation along the west shore, north of Westport. So we'll have probably a Google Earth image that we'll use beforehand, and we'll actually map the community that we're interested in, and what are the pieces of that landscape type that we really want to show in the video, and then we'll go try and capture that with the airplane. And when we get all done with that, we'll come back, download that footage, and then we'll compare it with all the other footage we have of similar landscape types, and we'll pick out the best ones that we have to use in a video of that landscape type.
There's binders everywhere, massive storage devices for the content, but there's got to be an organizational process that you use to keep track of everything in terms of putting it together into what is a very comprehensive document that is the Atlas.
Well, real quick, when we bring back a hard drive full of video clips, the first thing we don't want to do is lose it. So it gets downloaded through the computer onto one of these 40 terabyte hard drives, and then immediately copied onto a second one, so that we've got at least two copies right away, so that we can't lose the original footage. But we then take that footage, and if you back up to where why we're filming in the first place, we're filming 26 different landscape types within the Northern Forest, from the coast of Maine to the Prairie Edge in Minnesota. And we know where the best examples are across that landscape. And then once we acquire the footage, then I catalog it with something about when it was shot, what camera it was shot on, a file name, what the file number is, whether it was shot on the ground or by the drone or in the airplane, who shot it, a brief description of it, and some sense of its value, and then what landscape type that footage goes into. And then from that gives us a resource base to be able to then start developing the organization for the scripts. And once we lay out a rough timeline with the footage that we've recently captured for that landscape type, then I'll send it out to Dan Spada and Ray Curran to do a rough draft of a script. They'll send their scripts to me. I'll combine them, consolidate them, rewrite them, send them back out to them. That'll go back and forth a couple of times. I'll create a final, and then I'll narrate, I'll adjust the video to match the script exactly and do all the timing and color correction and so on, and then produce the final with narration, and then that goes up on the website.
And there's so much more to the Northern Forest Atlas than what you're capturing with the AirCam. It's not just digital production, but it's print production as well. Tell me a little bit about the other members of your team that are involved in producing this, what's never been done before, digital and print documentation of the entire Northern Forest corridor.
Yeah, probably no one will ever attack this in quite the same way ever again, because it's too much work. This is a 10-year project, and we're about 5.5 years into it. And within all the landscape types that exist in the Northern Forest, we're filming them from the air with the AirCam. We're filming them from the ground with a drone. We're putting all those together into the videos that you see on the website. And the scripts that go with those are descriptive, and they're really drawn by two people other than myself, Dan Spada and Ray Curran, both formerly of the Adirondack Park Agency, and both very well-known experts in a lot of different things, but primarily wetland ecology throughout the Northern Forest. And so they're helping write the scripts in some detail, and without them, that part of the job would be very, very difficult. And it would take, Jerry could do it, but it would take Jerry away from the things which he does. And you see this graphic here showing where each of these landscape types exist in a cross-section through the Adirondacks. Jerry is extraordinarily capable in doing these kinds of graphics, as you see again here, but also in taking the stacking photos, which are anywhere from 20 to 100 negatives put together with software for each leaf of every plant within the Northern Forest. And we'll end up eventually with having photographed all the mosses, all the sedges, all the woody plants, all the herbs, and all the grasses. It's an enormous body of work. Jerry has been working full-time on that for many years. And he has about 45 years total of field experience. So this is an assembly that probably will never happen again.